in the last year or two we've seen tremendous tailwinds. Yes, the absolute numbers are still something which we can do better at. But let's say if I look at Skyscanner data specifically, 2 years back, out of every 100 clicks which we send to our partners, 80% of that would be domestic and 20% of that would be international. Today it's 50 to 48. Still skewed towards domestic, but international is catching really fast. Even if I look at outbound travel towards, let's say, India, Dubai, or India, Thailand, like every week, every minute, there are 80 searches a minute for India to the UAE, 47 searches to Thailand, 37 actually to the UK. And this has grown like 85% year on year from the first half of last year to the first half of this year. So we are very bullish that we see that the outbound Indian traveler kind of like embracing. Saying it still takes a lot more trepidation compared to domestic travel. Planning is much slower. It's obviously a much larger offline market. But we're seeing the early tailwinds and we hope that to kind of continue.
What we have on screen is in 2020 we have 2 crore households which are crorpatis. And those number of households will increase to 8 crore. So 8 करोड़ ऐसे लोग होंगे जो उन हाउसहोल्ड्स में रहेंगे जहाँ पे 1 करोड़ से ऊपर एनुअल इनकम होगी. That will change and that is the 2030 projection. Again, disposable income increases, people travel more.
I think one more point, like we do a lot of user research and we keep meeting our travelers. So we brought in a bunch of new first-time international travelers, and what we realized it's a very emotional journey. For sometimes someone who's going for the first time, we were talking to someone and it was really adorable that he told us it was his first international trip. He was going to Singapore, and he bought new shoes for the flight because it was his first time, and he was so excited that he hadn't slept all night and he's wearing his shoes while sleeping. So that just shows you a sense of how deeply emotional it is for someone, and I feel that's something which is changing. Earlier it was you need to be of a certain background to travel internationally. That's changed a lot and will continue to change with our new air supply coming in.
I'm sure at the time of you getting listed, you often would use that example that back in the day Indian outbound would be that travel to UK, and now everything's changed. You have Central Asia, you have these short-haul destinations. All the destination preferences have come because he brought up UK. It's not a UK story anymore. It's all short-haul story.
I think one, near the flights, flying short haul is the first aspiration traveler, as Neil just said, is going to look into that itinerary. Second, I think ease of visa on arrival. Like Vietnam is a use case. It's the #1 destination now sold from India. The flights are of almost 8-time gateways. I think that's a trend which will change. And then eventually that passenger, I believe, will mature to Western Europe and then finally go to a Scandinavian Tanzania. I think that's a typical journey of a traveler, first-time traveler, probably 5 years, then he will be looking at a Scandinavian or Antarctica journey. But I think the new flights coming in will be added to a new lot of destinations like CIS you mentioned. I've been also hearing some other destinations which ITB might be announcing in the next few days. That's something which is a great move forward. That's the next growth in 2030, isn't it?
Yeah, Vietnam came up. You have a big role play there.
No, I think it's an interesting rise of Vietnam. I've been to Vietnam 15 years before and 20 I did like it. I don't know because I've not gone, but a lot of people have gone. And I think what we have to look at it is that how mature we are becoming as leisure and outbound is the rise of cruise, right? If you look at on the MICE segment destination, not only Vietnam, Georgia, Azerbaijan. So I think connectivity major driver is of, he pointed out, family-friendly destination. A lot of them, we look at things differently now. We have a domestic cruise liner taught a lot of people what cruising is. Not only the cruise which used to go from Singapore, and select few could go. So the value has changed, and so has the aspiration. Today people really want to do a once-in-lifetime sort of all-out bang for their special occasions or whatever it is, and people spend a lot. And then you have people valuing for their money to travel, and they are first traveler with aspiration to travel, and that's not luxury anymore. But that could be Vietnam because you could travel in more or less the same amount of money and have a flight to go, right? And not only one place to Vietnam. You could do itinerary where you could go to Ho Chi Minh and come out of and stuff like that, right? Which used to be a rarity before. To fly to Phuket was a problem from India, from many cities. When I'm not saying Ahmedabad, right? I mean, Bombay also getting a good connection. Phuket was a problem. Now we have multiple options to go, and that's what is driving and changing. And multiple examples on that again.
That is actually a blessing in disguise. The over tourism or the over demand on the domestic side has made some of the domestic destinations so expensive that some of these outbound short haul destinations, Central Asia particularly, makes much more sense. Ankush, we have a world largest standing order book. Indigo, they are LCC with aspirations to fly long haul, aspirations to have business class. All of this, we never heard of. Can India become an aviation hub? Can we foresee that future wherein we are connecting South Asia, Southeast Asia to Middle East and Europe?
I think that's not just for Indigo as well, Viren. I would also include Air India. What Dubai did as a corridor from Australasia, Asia into US, I think that's a very big opportunity for India to become the transitional hub and a hub where people will actually stop and then go into Asia or go into Europe. I think that's a beautiful advantage India has, first of all, geographically. And I think with the new airports, now with ITB Mumbai starting soon, with Delhi has 4 runways now, I mean, amount of tourism which can come through as a 2-night layover, what happened in Dubai, if you remember many years back, and how much international tourists can actually come. Why are these new destinations? Why are we discussing Delhi, Vietnam, like Charles said? We should also discuss Vietnamese coming to Delhi or Bombay. I mean, look at the opportunity there to get foreign exchange, get the inbound passengers, which we always miss, unfortunately. I think India can be beautifully playing a hub. What Emirates stated by 20 years back, I think India has the opportunity right now with these 2 major carriers and the book orders which they have.
All right. Let's talk about air distribution. We have a domestic market which is heavily online, and within that online heavily led by the online travel agencies. Then we have 70% penetration in the online air side, and we have 80% offline distribution of international air. Right? So you have a chokehold of the travel advisor community on the offline side, and you have a chokehold of online travel agencies on the online side. How do you see this mix changing?
So this question I must have answered 100 times.
So it comes to you again.
So it's been 20 years I've been hearing this, and I always say the offline and the online will always coexist, not just in India. Even if you take a market like US, which you can also talk a little about, it still coexist very, very healthy. That's one. I think the size, the TAM, which is going to increase with all these airlines coming in, as long as the supply supersedes the demand, I think both the channels will exist. However, point to point will move towards online. Complex itineraries, multi-search, high on transactions like 10 lakhs and above, for example, will continue offline. So this is a split, I would say. So if you are issuing a Bombay Delhi, we are absolutely losing that passenger to an OTA or to the airline website directly. But if you are issuing a Bombay, Manchester, Edinburgh, Dublin and back, I can promise you it is still not going to an airline and an OTA. So I think this will remain. Even if it is 50-50, so be it. The market is too large for everybody to grab right now. I think that's an opportunity in India. We're a growing market at 6-7% year on year. Who knows? Might go faster as we move into the next 5 years.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel more than like who's taking what percentage share, the size of the pie is just growing larger and larger, and that's something which is exciting for the overall industry. I feel what Skyscanner is trying to bring in, at least to this international, for the international travel, is just making it very simple to do convenience, to bring in convenience and choice. So, and we have a fair number of people right now, so I just wanted to do a thought experiment. How many of you here use Blinkit as a product, like show of hands? Right. How many of you use Instamart? Right, and how many of you use Zepto? Now, if you had a product, and 5 years back, do you think this would have been a necessity in your lives? No. Not really, right? My point is, if you had a product where if you could just see in 1 second what is the price between Zepto, Instamart, and Blinkit, and then use that, would that be of use case to you?
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're trying to bring into the India market. In Skyscanner, bringing the concept of meta search, bringing the concept of discovery, where literally within a minute or a second, you can actually compare very, very seamlessly, and then work with our partners to figure out which is the right choice for you.
That is an excellent example because in most scenarios I saw many hands going up for all the three options, which necessitates the role play of Meta. Good question. So in travel we have many categories: domestic air, international air, hotel, intercity bus, rail. All these operate at varied levels of internet online penetration. Rail is right there at the top, followed by domestic air, and somewhere at the bottom we have the hotel penetration, the intercity bus penetration, and then international air, I'm sure will be at the bottom. I can't see the slide from here, but I know that is at the bottom. So we have this huge spread. The biggest GBV is tied to the international air, but then we have rail and domestic air, the most used two categories in terms of logistics at very high penetration. How do we see the online penetration in India evolving across categories and tourism as a marketplace? Neil, let's begin with you.
Just think through that. So if you look, all the infrastructure and the guardrails are there for growth. Like the hard work has already been done by the government in terms of making sure we have digital penetration that's growing rapidly. Most of the country uses UPI, which was something which was not really common 5 or 6 years back. The physical infrastructure is also very much kind of like growing with our airports and aircraft kind of coming in. So it's kind of like that perfect storm, where the physical infrastructure is kind of there and online is much more accessible. So I think the only way is up. Personally, I think it's important for each one of us who are playing in this ecosystem to know what is our capability and what is not. Right? So let's say if I had to take our lens in Skyscanner, we're a global travel marketplace. There have been folks who've been building in the Indian domestic space for 20-25 years. Is that potentially our right to win? Not necessarily. But the fact is that when you're talking about the 35 million Indian diaspora, or the fact that we have 160 million global travelers, then someone who's kind of like looking for their first international travel will probably be a much more trusted platform because we're there in so many places. So it's very important to kind of like know what your strengths are, what your limitations are, and who are the folks who you should partner with to kind of increase the size of the pie. Yes, I think short answer is I see online growing at a much faster pace, not just in niche segments like airlines, but we're already seeing that with the confirmed tickets and the IRCTCs of the world. And this is just like on its way up, I believe.
I will answer this in some bits now, in some parts. If I pick leisure, if I take demographics now, and if I take the first-time traveler, chances are that they will still go back to a travel agent and just not treat the youngster today who's 22 from Delhi and Mumbai. Now take a village in Kolhapur who wants to go to Bangkok. Now the question is, will he go online or will he go offline? He will go to somebody who he trusts or a friend is recommended. Then comes the second part. Somebody has traveled 3-4 times, feels that he knows it all. Chances are that they will go to an OTA, right? And then we have the people who are 50s, all the baby boomers who have made their money, well settled in life. For them, they don't care, they want the experience. Chances are that they will go back to the travel operator. So I think these bucket 1 and bucket 3 is still with the leisure, is still with the travel agent. And if I actually further deep dive, corporate travel, how much does it go to an OTA? MICE. I don't think MICE will ever go to an OTA. Weddings will never go to an OTA. Cruises depends on what cruise line you're searching, right? But I think these are the segments, and don't forget, these are large, they are growing. I think the MICE industry is growing faster than our own air industry. I think the weddings industry, both domestic as well as international, is growing faster. As I again say, if the itinerary is simple, the guy knows very internet savvy, believes he's done it all, is definitely OTA customer. But I think the rest, what I'm saying, I still believe it is going to stay offline. Yes, we have to keep evolving. We'll have to be smarter. Companies like us will have to be smarter. The people sitting here would have to be smarter. How do they use it for advantage? And I think collaboration is something which is important because I can't do everything myself. We can't, Gal can't. I'm sure there's somebody in the room here who does better than things. I should have no ego or anything to collaborate so that I win that passenger on that company. Plus, doing B2C, B2B, etc., there's always a channel conflict. hotels don't like you them selling their rates on both the platforms. The airlines don't like you selling both the platforms. So I think one should actually decide what are they going to play and what is their right to win where they are very good at, and then focus on that rather than getting, doing everything and end up doing nothing with it.
Because I have one question, I think your experience might kind of like give some perspective there. The trends you're seeing in India from online to offline, is it similar to what's happened in other countries in their maturity journey, or do we have a slightly unique kind of mix?
It's a little unique, but I think we will evolve there eventually to the Western world. But I think that's 5 years away. In my opinion, it's set at 50-50. But as long as the growth keeps happening and the airlines getting added and new destinations, I think it's still 5 years away and it's still unique in India.
Ankush, you talked about the first-time traveler. 18 months ago, we fielded a consumer survey across India, online and offline travelers, and we had 84% respondents who have never ventured outside, having an intention to do their first international trip in the next 12 months. Phenomenal number. We have these millions and millions of first-time travelers who aspire. We just do not have a young pop or a digitized pop, but a very, very aspirational pop. And you talked about UPI. UPI is a blockbuster from a country which was completely offline 10 years ago to Kharido Pyaz online, and that is an Indian export. Because now we have 7-8 countries, many Middle Eastern markets that accept UPI as a payment instrument. If I'm not wrong, when I wrote a report, I think we had a treaty with France also agreeing to accept UPI. So, to talk about some of the fillers that would help change this curve in online penetration. So we have talked about air, we have talked about travel categories, we have talked about outbound. Let's talk about some consumer insights. There was one consumer behavior before pandemic. Then we had a pent-up travel, called GN. We might as well travel today. So there is a paradigm shift. This is an overused word, but especially post-COVID in the Indian context, the travel has never been like this, what it is right now. So let's talk about some of the consumer insights that you guys see as you go about engaging with your travel advisory community and as you go about the searches. What are some of the outbound destinations that you see, and which are, if you have any opinion on the drivers that are driving those outbound destinations? There is a secular Neil, let's begin with you.
No, I think before getting into the facts, like we can just talk about anecdotes which we see around us, right? Let's say compared to 5 or 10 years back, if you were to go for a staycation to a 5-star hotel, you would probably see folks from a certain kind of background, certain kind of like pedigree, certain kind of this thing. Luxury has generally become much more democratized today in India, right? I feel many more people can afford that, and rightfully so. And we're seeing that kind of across air travel also, and especially internationalization. I think one very clear trend which we're seeing, at least for the consumers, and I won't just say in airlines or hotels, I'd say across consumer, is the increase in premiumization. We've done some very deep research with our travelers to understand that better, and the results actually surprised me also. So we've seen that, like when you think about what are experiences, right? So let's say if you think about live sports, 53% of our travelers are happy to travel abroad or domestically to kind of watch a live game. Last year you've seen a ridiculous amount of, in a good way ridiculous, concerts. You've seen Coldplay, and you've seen Michael Learns to Rock, and you've seen we've got Enrique coming in and so many others. So according to our customers in Skyscanner, 37% of people are happy to kind of travel for that. Now these are great numbers. These are things which are not there earlier. 66% of our travelers are happy to travel or are willing to travel more internationally than they were last year. So again, is everything hunky-dory? No. Like everything else in the country, there is K-shaped growth. But there's no denying the fact that the top 10-20 percentile of our country have much more disposable income, and that is going to experiences like travel, and that's something which is like good news for all of us in this room.
So go to Coldplay, just don't pose for Kiss Cam.
I won't repeat what Neil said, but from a destination I can talk to you about our company. So the big 5 amongst the 10 today was definitely Vietnam, Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan, CIS countries, and the other one which I saw was Bali. Simple answer. There was no cold pay there. Simple answer is connectivity increased, access to visa. That is a big motivator for a amateur leisure traveler who wants to stay in a 5 star, and even the guys who want to travel for the first time. So I think these are destinations which have actually outturned some of them, which used to always come in the top 10. But what I saw in Japan for some reason, I think in my opinion was the flavor of the summer. Why? I still don't have an answer. Expo, but everybody seemed to go for a holiday to Japan this summer. So I think that is the flavor of the destination, what you asked, apart from what Deep said. So I won't waste time talking about that, those numbers. I think what he said was some great feedback.
So I think, see, connectivity is a family-friendly destination, right? But I think I can give an interesting thought to the people in the room. We know the destinations which are grown, but how about some popular destinations which are gone out? And I think maybe they can go with this thought and think, because it came to my mind, what about place like Macau, right? I mean, what it used to be in North, right? Where is Macau? Who talks about Nepal? I haven't heard anybody going there. And we had some connectivity improvement in this sector as well. So that's the thought I want to do. Sri Lanka has a resurgence now. So there is travel which is improving their airfares, other states. They have a new product now, right, which is open with some hotels. Japan, unbelievable trend. I mean, they issued a lot of visa. There was a demand. I think overall, because I think that's the cultural shift which is coming into India. The Korea, the influence of other mediums, right, watching online series and stuff. I think that's coming, bringing a lot of this culture. And I think sports, we've seen traction, people driving sports. I saw from India people willing to drive themselves on holidays for destinations which are other than around, right? I started doing that myself since the 6-7 years and I enjoy it more. And I think we are selling and people are able to pick up those trends. India is on a very good track of becoming a very mature, close to West, but with our own sort of add-ons, because we'll continue to shop, we'll continue to wine and dine well, we'll continue to have bulky excursions in a family trip. Will become at that level at the end of the day a very mature, worthy market for the entire ecosystem of travel, because you are able to sell everything. We are not afraid of traveling in train. We had train travel in our culture, so that adoption is easy. As soon as there is accessibility and people have a belief, you would start to see that we replicate most of the Western world, which is a very good market.
offline, you have the relationship. You know, the whole play of a travel advisor is the long-standing relationship this guy has cultivated, sometimes generational, across product categories. So that to that degree, to an offline customer, travel advisor already has a stickiness. That's a big problem in your business. You know, to the cost of customer acquisition, you just saw many hands raising up. They don't care about which brand, as long as they get what they want in the easiest customer interface at the cheapest price. There you go, right? So, what are some of the drivers that you put in your business to drive consumer loyalty to keep getting that same customer back?
No, great question. I think you can bucket it into two parts. What are you doing from a product part of it, and what are you doing from a brand and partnership space, right? Product, I briefly touched on what are the things we can do with meeting the needs of a value-conscious customer. India is a very unique market in terms of how do you reach out and create a relationship with the customer. I think Dipinder Goyal once said it really well that his mandate to his marketing teams is don't worry about CAC, don't worry about anything, just build a relationship with the customer, make it more emotional. And you see that with notifications, etc. So for us, in the last year, cricket has been a big play for us, obviously, and I think a lot of us here, including Ankush and me, are failed Indian cricketers. We're sitting here because we couldn't, we couldn't do what we're passionate about, which is playing cricket. But that's something which talks to all of us.
And the remaining quarter is intercity bus and the rail. Now that's the configuration of the Indian travel market. One thing that has happened, because we are talking about evolution, experiential, the alternate accommodation segment, including Airbnb, you know, their GBV from India market or searches or transactions before pandemic, and what that category means today, completely upended. We had the most recent funding by Aliva's alternate accommodation players. See, when you stay in somebody's place or you book a villa, that is not a quintessential Indian holiday. You know, if you want to have a luxury stay, you go to a 5-star or you travel international. So the very fact that alternate accommodation is right now, I think the share of Indian alt deco in the lodging is low single digits, and that would increase sizably in 3 to 4 years time frame. That just goes on to say how the Indian consumer, Indian supply, and Indian category, the lodging category, is evolving. But still, the fact remains that it is a very, very fragmented, 30% penetration, I think, still largely fragmented category.
Laundry, I think the trends are still very, very single digit, like you said, Viren, and I continue to believe it is going to remain like this. However, yes, villas are getting popular, but you want a full service villa, for example, apartments, which are fully kitchenette, which have a butler, etc. Even if it's a lower value conscious traveler, but you would still like to have his own space rather than meeting somebody who doesn't know, like a landlord or something. I personally, and I tried this myself 5-6 years back, right in London on Regent Street. I had to get my keys from somebody, then I had to give my keys to somebody. That was the last time I ever stayed in alternate accommodation because I thought when I chutti mein aaya, so I think it still will take time.
Maybe both are less. It's a fact. Right? The places where villas are getting popular are really good quality villas, and there is an acceptance. Let's say beach Goa. Some other places you don't have an option, so we used to manage it somehow. Now it's bad. International side, yes. So you look at a destination like Dubai. These alternative accommodations are actually a nice classified investment-driven service apartment who sold on Airbnb. I have one of mine, and it's generating decent revenue, but that's also you can manage the alternative accommodation. The real I had horror like you, and that too in Scandinavia. So imagine, your AI-driven itinerary, which was good. I was a good driver, but the choices of hotels which looked good never turned out to be, right?
67% of the searches happened that is there a jet spray in the bathroom?
Is there a jet spray in the bathroom? Yeah.
So this is how the Indians decide the hotel is basically if there's a jet spray. 67% of the searches which happened through the smart app, which is hotels loved by Indians. Just want to give you a little statistics just to get some fun.
Go back to our product team and give a new filter recommendation now.
So here